the older brother, 13 years older than David. However, when Jim and I were born 13 months apart, having a brother that is close to your age is a wonderful gift. We played and did a lot of different things together. Hung out with our cousins and friends, shared mowing, raking, and shoveling duties, and were roommates for much of our childhood. As a child, Jim was the same kind of person he was all his life. Good-natured, fun, athletic, good sense of humor, and liked being part of the group and blending in. I was lucky to have Jim as my Irish twin. Growing up with a brother close to your age is a contact sport. We roughhoused, wrestled, and chased each other, wearing boxing gloves and jumping from bed to bed, and we would throw punches at each other midair. When we roughhoused, I had the advantage due to being older, that is, until the fateful day when we were 9 or 10, which I will never forget. Just as I had gotten the better of him, Mom said, "You know, Jim, you're bigger than Mark."
Oh, no.
I believe some things are better left unsaid. In 1976, when Jim was in the hospital, recovering from his accident and struggling to envision his future, Mom dropped a pearl of wisdom. "Jim, there are a million ways to live your life, and no one way is better than another." That comment had a huge impact on Jim, freeing him and igniting him. He soon discovered wheelchair sports. As his first big goal, he ran the Boston Marathon, finishing 5th. Boston was a huge shot in the arm for Jim. Within a few years of the accident, he ran 5 marathons, competed in the 1980 Paralympics in the Netherlands in swimming and track, won 4 medals there, and earned an MBA from Indiana University. Jim was becoming a legend and inspiring others. In 1990, he obtained his pilot license and bought a plane, a Piper Cherokee 180. Flying and owning that plane was a major highlight of Jim's life because it gave him significant freedom and independence. If you have not flown with Jim, the way Jim lands the plane is, at the last minute, he grabs the yoke of the plane with his biceps, controls the rudder with a forearm that is through a metal ring connected to a rod to the foot pedals that control the rudder, leaving his hands free to manage the control tower communication radio, push and pull the throttle, and work the other dashboard knobs. Every part of his arm was doing something different simultaneously. Because the minimum safe landing speed of the Piper Cherokee 180 is 75 miles an hour, he'd be landing at 80 to 85 miles an hour. As the passenger, you either were in awe or you were turning green. One of the things Jim really missed post-accident was skiing, and more specifically, skiing with his family. In 1995, after a 20-year hiatus, and after learning to ski with a monoski, he once again skied with family in Aspen. On that trip, he also skied for the first time with Challenge Aspen. Jim returned to North Dakota, shut down his business, and moved to the South, and the rest is history. He was asked to be president of Challenge Aspen's board, which he accepted. He became a certified ski instructor and the first disabled person ever to be hired by Aspen Skiing Company to teach skiing. And after just 1 year of ski racing experience, Jim was selected for the U.S. Olympic ski team for the Paralympics in Japan in 1998, where he competed in 4 events. Skiing with Jim in Aspen were some of the most memorable and fun experiences of my life. Jim was an amazing skier, but the guy could really quad burn me. He'd fly down the hill, and when I got to the bottom of the hill, he'd be waiting not breathing heavily, with a mischievous smile on it and a chuckle and a quip. How are your quads? I'd be bent over, laughing and trying to catch my breath while wondering how many more runs my quads could take from a guy who doesn't need quads to ski. Our brother was a marvelous person with significant achievements, great humility, and a fun sense of humor. Jim will be hugely missed, especially by Sarah, David, and I.
Almost made it through that.
I almost.
We'll all maybe make it through it. Welcome, everybody. Jim was a lifelong Christian Scientist, and in honor of that, I have brought his pastor with me to share some thoughts. The pastor of the Church of Christ Scientist is the Bible and the Christian Science textbook, Science and Health, the Key to the Scriptures, by Mary Baker Eddy. And I have some very short readings because we have a lot to talk about. And I will just, as a side, when I read from Science and Health, you'll hear the word man used. It is the generic term man, and it includes all male and female of God's creating. So, to begin from the book of Romans, I am persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus our Lord. And now from Science and Health. This is the doctrine of Christian Science, that divine love cannot be deprived of its manifestation or object, that joy cannot be turned into sorrow, for sorrow is not the master of joy, that good can never produce evil, that matter can never produce mind, nor life result in death. Man is not a pendulum, swinging between evil and good, joy and sorrow, sickness and health, life and death. God is the divine principle of man, and man in God's likeness, man in God's likeness. God, the divine principle of man, and man in God's likeness are inseparable, harmonious, and eternal. God expresses in man the infinite idea, forever developing itself, broadening and rising higher and higher from a boundless basis. This is life eternal, says Jesus, is, not shall be. And then he defines everlasting life as a present knowledge of his Father and of himself, the knowledge of love, truth, and life. This is life eternal, that they might know thee, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom thou hast sent. So now, what was it like to be Jim's cousin? In the 1950s, it was going to sleep to the rocking of the leg. But he's done that, been with him, that's what I'm talking about. In the 1960s, it was weekends at the French Howard Arand cabin in Wisconsin, boating, swimming, skiing, and going to sleep to the rocking of the leg. In the 1970s, it was starting my car to drive to campus and discovering that the radio, wipers, and heater were on full blast. Or being awakened by campus security requesting that I please remove my car from inside the student concourse. And then they were going to make me pay a fine. I sent them to Jim. In the 1980s, it was taking a long trip through the western U.S. when one night Border Patrol at the Oregon-California border asked us to please open our trunk for inspection. And Jim and I started giggling because we knew that on top of the full trunk were his prosthetics dressed in jeans. The poor man came right back and told us we could leave. Or later in Disneyland, when we got off a ride, it was great going to Disneyland with Jim. You went right to the front. We never stood in line. But we were getting off a ride, and I was leading, and Jim was following, and then I turned around to say something to him, and he wasn't there. I looked down. There he was, lying on his back, looking stunned and slightly embarrassed, because he was not quite up to speed on doing tricks on his chair. And rather than helping him up, which a nice person would have done, I just looked at him, shook my head, and started laughing, and walked away. And he got himself up, and off we went, and I've always felt that the people who were in line, waiting in line next to us, probably think I am the worst person. But I didn't care, because I had learned on that trip how he wanted to be treated, with humor and self-reliance. In the 1990s, it was having him move into my house. It was a girls' dorm. It was great. I was all by myself with a female dog in Basalt, Colorado, and neglecting to mention that he was bringing 2 snakes along. I don't know what gender they were, but they were the dumbest snakes out there. Sorry. When I arrived home from work, they were sitting on my kitchen island, and I almost burst into tears. I informed him that they were living in his bedroom. So of course they lived in the living room. 2 weeks later, he came home from a trip with his family and brought 2 more snakes with him. But they were only this big. I learned to live with mouse tea. Anybody familiar with mouse tea? Yes. Think of frozen baby mice floating in a mug of water with their tails hanging over the edge. Jim thought this was the funniest thing. In the 2000s, it was flying over our house in the mountains above San Diego with Jim at the controls of his plane. He had flown there from Colorado, navigating the airspace over the Southern California military bases, and managing to not be shot down. He was a remarkable man whose only disability was his inability to make simple decisions. He was a man who brought, here I'm going to lose it. He was a man who brought great joy and inspiration to all who knew him, and a man who laughed with his entire body.
I am John Bryant, yet another classmate. Jim and I were introduced by 2 classmates. Beba and Marilyn were both Northrop 1945. The 2 moms liked arranging pretty typical outings. I'll say right now, some of our favorites involved the Coal Beach in Robinson's Bay, where I probably saw a third of this room for the first time at some point. How special was that? Our fathers were friends, and they soon decided they liked organizing trips with their oldest sons. I'm going to share 2 quick anecdotes. Late elementary school ages, we were alpine skiing in Michigan, Upper Peninsula. Indian Head was our favorite. Dining out after skiing, we were at a restaurant, and Shorty began his regular ritual of providing menu guidance. Boys, grab the menu, note the burger sandwich listings on the lower right. anything in that section should be perfect for you. Well, I think Jim and I wisely selected cheeseburgers, and when it came to Mark went off-piste. I don't remember exactly what Mark had. I think it was chicken, maybe a pork chop, but it was far enough off of guidance that the waitress, after exiting our table, Shorty wasted no time delivering a stern, strong scolding to really all of us at the table. Now, I felt kind of bad for Mark, and later in our motel room, I asked Jim if Mark was okay. Should we try to cheer him up? Should we pick him up? Jim replied, almost word for word, "Mark, he's fine. Mark messed up, and I'm sure he knows he did." Another summer trip was the same. Another trip was the same five-some, this time camping on the St. Croix in Wisconsin. That particular day had the boys and all in one canoe. The shift I'm thinking about had Mark in stern, I was in bow, Jimmy was in the duffer position. Well, Jim eventually bored of the duffer position and he picked up a fishing rod. Fortunately, on one of Jim's back casts, he accidentally managed to hook his brother in the right ear. We don't remember, we were saying Crazy Ike, something like that. The dads quickly met us on shore. My dad was very quick and eager with a Swiss Army knife. But bad news, well, the barb had set itself deep and there was rust everywhere. Now, this next part I'm a little fuzzy on, but what happened was we paddled to a landing we found on a map. Shorty at the landing found a car, grabbed a ride into a small town. Mark got the professional attention he needed. And all of this happened within about an hour. No cell phones, no Uber, no Google Maps, and no urgent care. In any case, it was a very happy, quick ending. That night at the campfire, Jim felt terrible. He felt awful. He took full responsibility for what he did, apologized for his poor cast and the whole episode. Jim did not offer up any excuses about the wind, our bad paddling skills, nothing like that. Jim owned his results and his performance, and he expected the same thing. If you messed up, if you made a bonehead play, don't come to Jim for a pity party. You're not going to get it. To be clear, Jim didn't share his performance expectations with others openly. He isn't going to say anything in public. But the big bulletin is that Jim was not a different person from what I saw around his family, any more than his teammates, friends, nor did he change one bit as an adult. Highly respected in all of our circles. I have one final word to Jim's Blake classmates. There are a couple of you here. Save this date. Friday, December 31st, hopefully the same venue we had enjoyed in 25. Yes, there'll be the normal stories. Our challenge this year is putting in a bottle probably Jim's number one reunion attribute, and that is his fantastic gut belly laugh. He warms up a whole room. So we're going to do our best to try to bottle that up, bring some along. Hope to see you there.
Notice the weather today. It reminds me of a quote from our track coach, Chuck Bettles. The sun always shines on the Blake track team. Knowing Jim was like sitting in front of a cozy fire, in your robe and slippers, reading Men of Iron, a Blake 6th grade classic, and sipping an NA beer. His infectious smile and his machine gun laugh were singularly comforting. A year or two after Jim's accident, We learned Jim's wheelchair was not a flotation device. At my bachelor party, we pushed Jim in his wheelchair off the dock into the late night darkness of Lake Minnetonka. As he and his wheelchair went under, and we watched the bubbles float to the surface. There was a brief moment of concern because we weren't sure he could swim. Sure enough, Jim surfaced, laughing and smiling, and said, "Good luck retrieving my chair from the bottom." The list of accomplishments is kind of overwhelming, so I thought I'd reflect on what Jim didn't do. As far as I know, he didn't smoke, he didn't drink or do drugs, he didn't swear. I maybe heard him swear once. He didn't dislike people, with the possible exception of Steve Mayer from Breck, our hurdling nemesis in track. Thanks, Nobby. He didn't get sick, at least during his Blake tenure, and I always thought there was a Christian Science influence there. He didn't seek attention, he didn't have hidden agendas, he didn't complain, he didn't like losing, especially at the card game Bloody Knuckles. He didn't make quick decisions, the word methodical comes to mind. He didn't settle for mediocrity in the classroom, on the athletic field, or in life. And he didn't lead because we were inspired to follow. He didn't let the accident ruin his life. Simply put, Jim did not know how to quit. I'll close with a brief childhood memory because I have 2.5 minutes here. Most of you are probably unaware of Jim's run-in with entrepreneurship. Our fathers, Shorty and RF, deemed it appropriate, go figure, to give 2 10-year-olds lead soldier making equipment for Christmas. Think playing with 700-degree molten lead, and pretty sure our moms were not happy about the lead exposure. After some time, Jim decided we should go into the lead soldier business. We'd cast the soldiers, meticulously hand paint each one, and we were a little fuzzy on marketing strategy, but we assumed with our father's connections, we'd be looking at some hefty cash flow. Long story short, with monumental time and effort, one lone painted lead soldier made it off the production line. After which we concluded entrepreneurship didn't hold a candle to golf, tennis, and water skiing. I have in my hand the Blake class of 72 salutes you.
And I'm going to just start into this and see how far I go. James Dodd, as he was always known to me, and I started a brotherhood when I was around 12 and he was 17. As many in our family did, we experienced life on the lake. I would spend many a night at the Finches just so I could get up very early in the morning and join him in a race across Wayzata Bay to Robinson Bay, where our grandparents' house was located. And I taught him to go almost full throttle right up on the beach so we wouldn't have to pull the boats. And he would head to the end of the road to get picked up for work, and I'd ride my bike home for breakfast. Over the years, he seeked me out wherever life had taken me, from LA to Seattle, and finally to Basalt. Shortly after my family arrived in Basalt, I started building a house for us. And he would come and stay so he could help. He had gone and learned to weld and braze metal, so teaching him to solder our copper plumbing was easy. We laughed because he did all the plumbing in our powder room on the first floor and was there for the roughing, but not the finish. So when he came back for a visit, we realized I had not put in a wide enough door for him to wheel through and to use the bathroom. It made for some interesting acrobatics for him to put it to use, but he, with his sense of humor, made it work. Shortly after that, my sister joined us in Basalt, and we went to work on James. In his adventures out west, he found the Monostine and just took off with his sport. He shared a house with Sue. That was a fun log cabin, except you had to go up 4 steps to get to the main floor. And of course, in James's fashion, he made it work. Jim always wanted to be a part of the projects we had going. From running my track hoe while building his house in Basalt, to plumbing and his favorite, using the nail gun. I would lay out the studs in place and he would nail them on. We loved toys, which meant there were always engines to work on. There were four-wheelers to boats, to a dune buggy with hand controls, and the best of all, aircraft. Over the years, we did a lot of skiing. Some epic powder days were had. On one occasion, in very deep snow, we came down a run called Green Cabin Snowmass. And at one point, it flattens out, and you need some speed to get through it. He was in the lead. I could only see the wake of snow behind him. But when it flattened out and I caught up, I hear the call out, "Chelsea!" I stop, and there's Jim, stuck, with a wall of snow in front of him. He was really stuck. We had one of those great laughs, and then I became the plow in front until we got some slope again, and he was off with me in the chase. With his sports and business expertise, he got involved in a group in Snowmass, starting a program called Challenge Aspen. It's geared toward the disabled and helping them get on the mountain to ski. That program today is one of the top programs in the world. He always was involved in something that helped the disabled community thrive. He sat on the advisory board of the Valley's public transit system when they were revamping all their bus stops so they were all accessible to wheelchairs. Jim grabbed the hearts of all the people around him, from the men he counseled in the world of wheelchairs in our valley to the local government. After having a conflict with one of our neighbors, because he'd ride his four-wheeler on the bike path between his house and ours, at the request of the chief of police, the town granted him a permit to ride his four-wheeler anywhere in Basalt. Many times you would find it parked in the handicap space in front of Two Rivers Cafe, which he frequented often. When Jim came to the mountains, it was not an easy place for him to get around. But after 30 years of being involved with various organizations and governments in the valley, it's almost 100% accessible. Some of the things Jim did while he was in Basalt: he served on the board of Challenge Aspen and was president for part of it. He volunteered with Roaring Fork Transportation Authority as an advisor. He served on the Basalt board, Basalt Sanitation District. He created a sled hockey team for our area, drawing players from Breckenridge to Grand Junction. And if he wasn't able to field a full team, he grabbed able-bodied friends and family and would put them in sleds. He volunteered as a tutor and was a financial donor to English in Action, helping the Latinos learn English. I could only imagine they were teaching him Spanish at the same time. James Dodd was a part of mine and my family's lives almost daily. At one point, we even moved in with him. 4 children, my wife and myself, a dog and a cat, and I know he felt blessed. We celebrated birthdays and graduations and even the births of my grandchildren. Even today, it still feels like he's just a phone call away. I was fortunate to get the happy James when I called. He was an inspiration, a guide, and a true gift in my life. And it'd be a never-ending part of mine and my family.
I'm Harry. I'm speaking here for the nieces and nephews. My sisters Haley and Emma, my cousins David, Lee, and Nicole. Uncle Jim carries many fond memories from our shared childhood, a few of which I'd like to share, of this kind, thoughtful man who, especially for a kid, was the biggest source of fun in any room he was in. Jim didn't say hello. Jim sat you on his wheelchair for a rib-shattering barrel hug, followed by wheelies around the kitchen, probably for too long, soundtracked with that low, rolling thunder laugh I'm sure will be impersonated many times today. That's what I like to call an entrance. Jim didn't miss a beat. He forgave rug-burned hands to ascend the stairs up the bonus room at Baba's house to play everyone's favorite game. It was simple, but it didn't have a name. Uncle Slipper pelts us with Grandma's Beanie Babies, usually around 400 miles an hour, and we try to dodge. We usually failed, but he never kept score. He just wanted more time on the clock. Jim didn't show up empty-handed. 4th of July meant a carload of illegal fireworks whose questionable fuses were someone else's responsibility to light and run away from, usually his brothers. Christmas meant Jim's newest toys, rubber band guns, slingshot monkeys, stuffed snowballs. We'd enjoy for a day or an hour or 10 minutes, and they would hide around the house for months, years, in couch cushions, under chairs, and sometimes in the stomachs of the family dog. We loved every minute. Jim was a teacher. He taught my sister Haley how to throw a punch, and even let her practice on his arm. How very kind. Punch with your knuckles to maximize pain, he'd say. Mark, I'm sure, knows this technique very well. Personally, as her brother, I have mixed feelings. Jim was gracious. Growing up, sorting out where you fit in and competing for that perfect punchline at family dinners to get the coveted big laugh. That table was a stacked heap, as I'm sure you've heard today. However, Jim never let your attempt fall flat. Jim made it easy to just be yourself. He'd treat you with respect, genuine curiosity, and connected with you where you were. Nothing too small, no one too small, for his undivided attention and care. As we all get older, and in the family tradition, considerably grayer, his memory was and is a rock. When we lost ourselves, when we explored our place in the world, when we found the people who we've always been, Jim embraced fully, proud and celebrating alongside us. I'm reminded of his gray Carhartt vest hung in the mudroom closet in Basalt. The pockets torn, the hem frayed, the fabric stained and discolored, and yet, through the decades of triumph and loss of time, the holes are resewn, the fringe is smoothed, the marks and imperfections model to the patina of his life well lived. Jim stays with us today as a reminder. Joy is amplified, pain is abated best, and perhaps only, in the company of friends, family, and loved ones. And not for 1 second would Jim ever let you forget that that included you. Thank you.
So, just some closing comments, because, we know getting together is where all the Jim stories really come out. These have been the scrub for prime time. But today's been great. We're really grateful for the speakers, for the musicians, the people who contributed on video and photography. There's been a lot of help. And you made today what it is. We appreciate everyone who came, far and near. We're kind of amazed at how many people came to this, and I think we nailed it on the seat count. I gotta tell you, that was a big shot. Far exceeded our original estimate, so fantastic. I have to call out Jim's caregivers, Jen, Danielle, Bobby, and Jolene, I think they're here, who did an amazing job allowing Jim to live independently, surrounded with people and laughter and filled with adventure and activity the last years of his life. He moved to Minnesota from Colorado, and while he was here, he enjoyed indoor skydiving. I mean, that was a picture. Seems it's kind of a bullet, but it works, I guess. He would ride his bike down country roads. He got back on riding his bike, even while during the day he would insist he couldn't see. It was amazing, like he could see on a bike, but he couldn't see across the room. I don't know how he did that. He triumphantly returned to playing ice hockey on Woodhill Pond, thanks to people in this room. And his caregiver, Danielle, would often say, "I don't raise quitters," and Jim never quit. So, in closing, Last summer, after his diagnosis, we decided to take some celebratory trips. We did a week in Colorado with parties and visits, and then a large family kayak trip up to the Apostle Islands in July. I mean, who knew those trips were so perfectly timed? And we all got to spend quality time with them. And sometimes in life, we wish we had just one more last phone call or a visit with a loved one who has passed. We want to hear their voice, their laugh, their energy, especially if it's been too long. So to that end, we're going to close this service with a short video made by Haley. And this is an interview with Jim taken at the end of our kayak trip last summer. So you all get to hear him one last time. Please enjoy, and afterwards we'll see you in the reception area, and again, we're open till 4. So.